Tonight, the Fed chief speaks out.
We have the tools to limit that longer run damage.
The latest on a new vaccine against COVID-19. And
here we go.
States getting the green flag. Nearly all 50 reopening across the country. Plus,
this pandemic has finally torn back the curtain.
A rare rebuke.
A lot of them aren't even pretending to be in charge.
Prompting a President Trump-Obama showdown.
He was an incompetent president.
This as a group of conservatives speaks out.
Barons of industry that are controlling all of our communication.
Rallying against internet censorship and around the First Amendment. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Moving the economy forward. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us this Monday. I'm Jenna Browder. Today, President Trump called his top economic advisors together to talk about opportunity zones. This as the chairman of the Federal Reserve says it's going to take a coronavirus vaccine to get the economy back on track. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips has our top story. Eric?
Well, Jenna, while Fed Chairman Jerome Powell says he does not see a second Great Depression happening anytime soon, he also does not see us bouncing back to where we were very quickly either. And then today, as if on cue, a leading drug maker announced major strides in terms of developing a coronavirus vaccine, perhaps even ahead of the president's end-of-year deadline.
This is a very big day. This feels much different than Friday. Friday is a different feeling than today. This is a very positive day.
President Trump's meeting with top economic advisors strikes an encouraging tone. It comes in the wake of blunt comments from the chairman of the Federal Reserve.
People will have to be fully confident, and that may have to await the arrival of a vaccine.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell told 60 Minutes economists must look at the current recession differently than ever before.
So what we're really looking at is getting the medical data, which is not what we usually look at, taken care of so that the economic data can start to recover. The spread of the virus, the real-time economic data that we're seeing is just a function of how successful the social distancing measures are.
Monday, drug maker Moderna Incorporated reported its experimental vaccine induced immune responses in some volunteers. It added the company's vaccine could be ready for emergency use as early as the fall if it works safely in subsequent testing. The FDA also recently gave Moderna permission to begin the second stage of testing, which could put it on track to create a public vaccine by year's end. The president tweeting, doing really well medically on solving the coronavirus situation. Plague, it will happen. But even if the frantic-paced development is successful, Powell warns.
We're not going to get back to where we were quickly. We won't get back to where we were by the end of the year. That's unlikely to happen.
Believes the economy will actually shrink in the second quarter of the year by some 30%. But then in the second half of the year, he expects that there will be a rebound. This comes after the Labor Department just last week announced that some 35 million Americans are now seeking unemployment help after losing their jobs because of the pandemic. Jenna.
All right, Eric Phillips, thank you very much. And joining us now is Stephen Moore, an economist with the Heritage Foundation. Steve, good to have you. Thank you for joining us. So your thoughts on Jerome Powell's 60 Minutes interview. Do you agree that it's going to take a vaccine to bring back the economy?
Well, obviously, Jenna, we all hope and pray we do get that vaccine, and sooner rather than later. But no, I don't agree that we have to wait until we have that vaccine. We are seeing treatments. We're seeing a lot of states opening up in the last few weeks, states like Georgia and Florida and Texas and Tennessee. And Jenna, the good news is those states that are opening up have seen actually a bigger decline in their death rates and hospitalizations than some of the states that are shut down. And so that is showing, I think, for all 50 states and all 50 governors, is there's ways to get this economy up and rolling again and businesses up in operation and American workers back on the job without jeopardizing their health. So we're going to have to take some smart and prudent steps to get the economy up and rolling. And we're going to have to do that even before we have a virus. But there's nothing any of us would like to see more than a virus that would eradicate totally this terrible disease.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, the Fed chair, he also said we won't get back to where we were quickly. Steve, do you predict a V-shaped curve or a U-shaped curve?
Well, I think I'm more on the U-shaped curve line of thinking, where we're going to see a really bad summer because, as you just mentioned, we have 35 million. 35 million, that's a terrible number, isn't it, Jenna? 35 million Americans who've lost their jobs. It's going to take a number of months to get anywhere near an unemployment rate that's even less than 10 or 8%. So I predict the summer is going to be very tough on Americans as we start to get our footing again. And then I'm predicting that by the fall, we'll start to see an improvement and some light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully by 2021, we'll see a really robust expansion. Remember, it was just 2 months ago, Jenna, you remember this, we talked about it. We had the best economy ever. So we want to get back to that kind of high growth, high prosperity engine that we had. And I think Donald Trump can do it, but it's going to take a little while.
Yeah. Today, White House advisor Kevin Hassett said a fourth stimulus package might not actually be necessary, touting a lot of that same optimism. Steve, do you agree with what he said?
I would like to see a payroll tax reduction, a suspension of the payroll tax for the rest of the year, precisely for the reason we were just talking about, Jenna. We need to provide a little juice into the economy. And why not do that by letting every single worker in America get a 7.5% pay raise for going back on the job? And then why not reduce the payroll costs of the small businesses? That would be a nice stimulus to the economy. Do it through the rest of the year, and then we can go back to the normal system of taxation. But if they're not going to do that, I mean, Pelosi's bill is a disaster, a total disaster for the economy. It stimulates and encourages more unemployment. It pays, bankrupt cities and states for their pension problems. No, we don't need that. So I would rather do nothing than have a massive government spending bill, which, by the way, we've already spent $3 trillion. Jenna, $3 trillion we've already spent. We don't need to spend another $3 trillion.
Yeah, a lot of money, big price tag. All right, Stephen Moore with the Heritage Foundation. We have to leave it there, but it's always good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna. Have a great week.
You too. Meanwhile, America is opening her doors once again, like Steve said. Tonight, 49 states have lifted at least some restrictions on stay-at-home orders. And in North Carolina, some churches have been given the okay to reopen, even as the state says no to public gatherings. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson is following this story. Abby?
That's right, Jenna. A judge has temporarily blocked Governor Roy Cooper's executive order that prohibits churches from holding services indoors greater than 10 people during the state's Phase 1 reopening. Now, Governor Cooper argues that he's trying to prevent churches from becoming hot spots in the state, while some churches say that he's violating their religious freedom.
We just simply felt like the judge agreed with us and recognized that we have a God-given right to assemble that's recognized in our United States Constitution, but also our North Carolina State Constitution.
While members returned to Shining Light Baptist Church,
and believe.
There was no reservations at all.
Many other North Carolina churches stayed online.
The impact of gathering right now, especially under maybe spiritual auspices, I don't know if that's the best foot forward right now.
Meanwhile, parishioners in Illinois are also frustrated with the government keeping them out of church.
I'm not going to let the government tell me how I can worship, when I can worship, and where I can worship. This is America. I have a right to worship.
Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot issued this warning as several churches defied government stay-at-home orders.
This is not playing Russian roulette. This is playing with a gun that's fully loaded and cocked.
People on both coasts flocked to beaches over the weekend despite rules against sunbathing. Nail salons opened with new safety measures in place. Crowds filled outdoor dining tables, and NASCAR returned with no spectators and a lonely winter ceremony for Kevin Harvick.
Now, across the country, 8 states are seeing a rise in new cases as the nationwide death toll nears 90,000.
Abby, businesses in a lot of states, they're still struggling financially, obviously. We are hearing about a possible another aid package.
Where do things stand?
Where do things stand, Abby, on a possible aid package?
That's right, Jenna. In the House, we saw on Friday passed that additional $3 trillion relief bill. But while the main focus of it is funding state and local government, there were also a lot of partisan policies put into the bill that led Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to declare it dead on arrival in the Senate, and he's not committing to another relief bill anytime in the near future. So we'll see how that plays out.
Okay, we will see. Abigail Robertson, thank you very much. President Obama taking aim at President Trump in a virtual commencement speech. That story coming up.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Between President Trump and former President Obama. Obama using a virtual commencement address over the weekend to take a jab at Trump, criticizing the Trump administration's handling of the COVID-19 crisis.
More than anything, this pandemic has finally torn back the curtain on the idea that so many of the folks in charge know what they're doing. A lot of them aren't even pretending to be in charge.
I didn't hear it. Look, he was an incompetent president. That's all I can say. Grossly incompetent.
And it's not the first attack the former president has lobbed at the Trump administration. Last week, Obama criticized the Justice Department's request for a judge to dismiss the case against General Michael Flynn. Flynn, Trump's former national security advisor, pled guilty to making false statements to the FBI. Attorney General Bill Barr arguing the investigation into Flynn was illegitimate and that FBI agents sought to catch him in a perjury trap. President Trump contends the Russia investigation was an Obama administration attempt to undermine him. And we want to bring in CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody, to discuss. David, your thoughts on President Obama's commencement comments this weekend?
Well, so much for bipartisanship. President Obama with a big stage in that virtual graduation, and instead of going to the better angels theory that he ascribes to, he decided to trash Trump, basically. And of course, the president firing back at the former president. Look, it doesn't surprise me. I think this is a Joe Biden, Barack Obama WWF cage match. I think they're going to go duo on this, both of them. It's kind of like you and John, Jenna, like, you know, going against me, boom, boom, one after the other. That's what it's going to be like. But eventually, Joe Biden's got to get out of the basement, and I think that's important. Though I will say this, Donald Trump will make Barack Obama the centerpiece to a degree of this campaign coming up, especially on Obamagate. That's all he wants to talk about. Obamagate, all caps and an exclamation point.
Yeah. David, the president fired the State Department Inspector General. We want to talk about that. And it sounds like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo might be behind this one. At the same time, we're seeing some stories about Pompeo questioning his use of taxpayer dollars and other things like, using staff to walk dogs, that kind of thing. What does all of this mean for Pompeo? Could it have a lasting effect?
Well, it will have an effect because there are two House committees. Oh, this just in, the House controlled by the Democrats. They're going to investigate this big time to potentially implicate Pompeo in all of this. So it's not going to go away. Having said that, look, I got to tell you, how this plays in Peoria, I don't see it. I think this feels very inside the Beltway. I'm not suggesting this isn't a problem potentially for Pompeo, but are folks in Peoria, if you will, or that heartland of this country really thinking about Pompeo and dog walking? I don't think so.
No. David, then we want to talk about the $3 trillion House-passed stimulus plan. It looks to be pretty much dead on arrival. Where does it go from here?
Oh, it's dead on arrival. There's no Lazarus at all in this bill. I mean, it's totally dead, fully dead. Well, yeah, I guess it wouldn't. No, it's not going to rise again from the dead like Jesus did, held there with Lazarus. No, it's not going to be that at all. Look, $900 billion, Jenna, that's the figure. That's the amount Democrats want these states and cities they want to give all of that money to states and cities that are financially strapped. And McConnell and the Republicans say, no way, not going to happen. So that figure is going to come down. It's not going to go away, though. So this will be less. That figure will come down because President Trump says he wants to help out states and cities, just not $900 billion worth. And oh, by the way, stimulus checks for undocumented immigrants, yeah, that's not going to fly either.
Yeah. David, just a few seconds left here. Franklin Graham, Kirk Cameron, and some other evangelical leaders have sent a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee urging Congress to protect churches from COVID-19 related lawsuits. Could that be part of a possible Phase 4 stimulus package?
Yeah, I really think it could, and here's why. Mitch McConnell, Jenna, has said all along that he wants liability protection for employers, for businesses out there, for all of these employees and others that are going to potentially bring lawsuits when they go back to work if they're not in a coronavirus-safe environment. So if McConnell wants it for businesses, my guess is churches will be wrapped into that as well.
Yeah. All right, David Brody, good to have you on today. Have a great Monday. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.
We'll be right back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Coronavirus and the First Amendment. Welcome back. A group of influential conservatives recently gathered to bring attention to Facebook, Google, and Twitter. They are accusing the tech giants of political censorship. Paul Strand has the story.
The prevailing criticism against these social media platforms is they appear to believe they have a corner on the truth.
So when you take issues like gender, like abortion, like climate change, like guns, there is on the left-hand side of the spectrum a position where there is truth and falsehood. Climate change is settled science. Gender is not man and woman.
This is really dangerous, what's going on. I think we all saw it during the pandemic, right? When they began censoring information.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton warns these internet overlords could grow to be unstoppable.
But some of these companies are as large as countries. And so it's quite the challenge when some of these companies have so much money, so much power.
Barons of industry that are controlling all of our communication.
Marjorie Dannenfelser's group works to put pro-life candidates in office, like placing ads during the 2018 midterms.
Our ads were taken down 13 times. And this was right in the run-up to the election.
When it is political, it is stridently anti-conservative, where conservatives feel and genuinely feel they're being targeted. Barack Obama wasn't targeted. Donald Trump has been targeted.
Senator Marsha Blackburn personally experienced that targeting.
We had a team at Google that referred to me as a terrorist because of my conservative values.
Senator Blackburn herself was targeted for wanting to talk about the right to life issue.
And it's very hard to have the marketplace of ideas if the government allows a handful of private industries to control everything and to censor whatever they wish.
Bozell says this could all be remedied if these internet titans would just follow the First Amendment, freedom of speech.
The rule in the United States of America is let people speak.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
All right, thank you, Paul. And joining us now is Chris Lewis, President and CEO at Public Knowledge. Chris, thanks for being with us today. So we just heard from numerous conservative groups. They all say they have been censored in one way or another by big tech. What is going on here, Chris?
Well, the power to moderate content is in the hands of these large dominant digital platforms. And, really we have a choice in this country. Do we want to empower government to make decisions about what speech is allowed online, what speech is not allowed online? Or do we want to empower users to make the choice of what media companies they consume, what social media companies they use, what digital platforms they use? And I think it's the latter. When we talk about free speech in this country, guaranteed by the First Amendment, that's against government intervention. These companies are not the government. And if we don't empower them to moderate content, then we could have all sorts of unsavory hate speech, inappropriate content, and disinformation online. So, I think the package that you ran was right. There are large dominant digital platforms that are making decisions that people may not like, but we're hearing those complaints both on the right and the left.
Do you think, Chris, that some of these tech giants do have too much power as arbiters of the truth? And some of that power, as you were mentioning, should be more in the hands of users and that kind of thing?
That's right. I think the power should be encouraged to be in the hands of users. And the way we do that is to promote pro-competition rules for these platforms. We don't want the government telling them what to post and what not to post, what to allow and what not to allow. But we need users to have consumer choice. So if we have rules around non-discrimination and interoperability of the services, then consumers can choose to go to a different network if they don't like how they're being moderated.
Yeah. Is the censorship of falsehoods even having the intended effect, or is it just adding more fuel to the fire?
Well, it certainly makes some users angry. Folks view these postings as their own political speech. But when they're posted publicly on places like Twitter, I think it's good that some of these platforms have rules around disinformation spreading. And it doesn't always have to be a takedown of the content, but it can be a deprioritization of the content to make sure that folks aren't getting harmful information about the pandemic or other health situations.
Well, on a related note, a recent Axios study found that the majority of Americans believe at least one of some 22 conspiracy theories related to coronavirus. There was one that, the 5G networks caused COVID-19 or that Bill Gates created it. Chris, does taking down one of these stories just make room for the next?
It can make room for the next, and we have to do more than just take down stories that are false and spread lies about, say, 5G causing illnesses. That's just not true. We've argued that there could be a super fund created to help clean up disinformation online, and that fund can come from dollars from these dominant digital platforms and be spent on trusted local media who, studies show most consumers trust the most.
Yeah. Well, Chris Lewis, President and CEO of Public Knowledge, we always enjoy having you on and your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Still ahead, making the most of a Saturday night in this pandemic. The virtual backyard party that happened across the country this weekend.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Finally tonight, making the most of a Saturday night in the days of coronavirus. This weekend, more than 12,000 families participated in a virtual movie night. The nationwide event was organized by Trail Life, a boys' adventure group. They played the movie The Pilgrim's Progress.
So we just tucked my parents in. They're nice and comfortable, and we're watching Pilgrim's Promise right now, and then there's our goose. And he has a pink
and Christian speaker David Benham emceed the event, and gospel music artists Keith and Kristen Getty kicked off the night with an online concert. That does it for tonight. Have a great evening.